Okay, before we get started, I want to make something very clear. I love the Shure SM7b. I love Shure microphones. I think they make phenomenal microphones. I think the MV7 is great. I own multiple SM58s. The Shure SM7b has been the gold standard in broadcast audio, along with maybe just another couple of mics, forever. And I'm not trying to change that or flip the script. However, when I get asked about what microphone should I get for my stream or my podcast, I find myself recommending the Shure SM7b less and less. That's not because it isn't a great microphone. The opposite, it's a phenomenal microphone. It just might not be the right tool for the job of a Twitch streamer or a podcaster making content at home. So in this video today, we're going to be talking about why you might not want to, or why you might want to, get a Shure SM7b. Before we get started, my name is John Horstman. I also go as Kick Tripod, and I help design and market audio products for streamers, content creators, YouTubers, podcasters, and you name it. If you want to hear more of my thoughts, especially around audio products, subscribe to the channel down below. Follow me on my social medias, also down below in the video description. But without further ado, let's get started. As I said before, the Shure SM7b is kind of the de facto content creator, aspirational content creator microphone. It checks all the boxes. It looks great. It's really versatile. It's got probably the best bass response of any of those kind of $400 broadcast dynamic microphones. However, it's not perfect for everyone, and today I want to talk about the reasons why you might not want to make this your aspirational mic. One of the most important aspects of making your voice sound great is the absence of all other noise. That's fans, that's air conditioners, that's reverb off of your walls and tall ceilings. If you've got a home recording studio and you've got acoustic treatment and your computers are isolated and you aren't running air conditioners and fans, then this probably doesn't apply to you much. However, if you're like most people streaming on Twitch, you don't have access to that type of environment to create your content. In that case, the Shure SM7b might not be for you. So if you have this awesome microphone, but it's picking up your computer fans or your air conditioner or the echoes in your room. I have 17-foot high ceilings in this room, and even on the RE20, it still comes through quite a bit. The SM7b is probably the least well equipped to handle those types of environments of those major broadcast streaming microphones. So the second reason is coming down to bass response. The Shure SM7b bass response is unreal. It's by far the best of those broadcast dynamic microphones we discussed earlier. But what if you're like me and you don't actually have a bassy voice? I mean, honestly, I just think that there's other microphones that are better tools for the job that are going to make your voice sound better and make your room sound less worse. Less worse. For me personally, I landed on the Electro Voice RE20 because it is less sensitive and you have a lot better control over your plosives and the proximity effect. And this is what actually brings me to a really important microphone principle. Buy a microphone for the voice that you have, not the voice that you want. Your voice is uniquely yours, and a microphone isn't going to fundamentally change that. There's some backwards logic that if you want to sound like a streamer that you think sounds great, all you need to do is buy their microphone and copy their EQ. But that's kind of like me saying, I want to be like Robert Downey Jr., so I go to the store and start buying pants in his size. They're just not going to fit. We all want a voice like Tim the Tatman or Epis Vox or Harris Heller or whoever else has that aspirational voice. For me, it was Scott Johnson, who does amazing Blizzard podcasts. But no microphone is going to make you sound like them if your voice doesn't have those same characteristics. So for this third one, I want to do my best to avoid overgeneralizations. On average, a streamer uses between 50 to 58 decibels of gain on their SM7B before it hits their compressor and even adding more makeup gain. That means is a lot of the entry-level audio interfaces, the Scarlett Solos and the 2i2s, and even some of the mixers that are kind of recommended in that $100 to $200 range, don't have enough clean gain to power the Shure SM7B efficiently. Because of this, it's often recommended to pair the Shure SM7B with a $150 box called a cloud lifter, which more broadly, the term is a mic activator, which will apply about 25 to 30 decibels of clean gain, which is a term we could delve into on its own, but it's designed so that you can run less power through your preamp and therefore get a lot lower noise floor from the Shure SM7B. And this is where I think my stance on the Shure SM7B for a lot of people might get a little controversial. So unless you have a GoXLR or a GoXLR Mini, which is able to power it cleanly on its own, you have turned the Shure SM7B into a $550 mic. The real question is that microphone, a $550 microphone, going to bring you more value than some of the quieter and more neutral and less sensitive broadcast dynamic microphones in that price range? And honestly, for me, unless you have that bassy voice, you have that really well-treated room, I don't think that the SM7B is necessarily the clear winner for the dynamic microphone that you should get. And then the last thing I want to highlight with the Shure SM7B, and this is why I don't use a Shure SM7B. I can make my voice sound fine through an equalizer with the SM7B. It looks way better than this monstrosity, which thankfully Electro Voice makes a black version of the RE20 now, so it's a little bit less of an eyesore. But the reason why I couldn't hold on to my SM7B was because of the boom. And what I mean is anytime I would type or bump my desk, anything like that, I ended up picking it up in my microphone, even with a strong gate setting. It was just too sensitive of a microphone for me, especially when I compared it to my RE20, which I don't really have that issue at all unless I'm banging my desk around or throwing my keyboard against the wall. It is worth noting that you can use the low shelf settings on the back of the Shure SM7B itself, as well as with your audio interface, but you lose a lot of that bass that you just paid for and is one of the strongest aspects of the Shure SM7B to begin with. Okay, so you've heard me out, and I want to reiterate just a couple of things before we go. First is the Shure SM7B is probably the best sub $400 dynamic microphone across the board. It's been tested that way scientifically and by ear tests. I'm not trying to challenge any of those results. Second, if you have the Shure SM7B, you shouldn't feel any remorse. If you're running into some of the issues that we discussed, A, resale value on the SM7B is amazing. You could probably get close to what you paid for it and switch microphones if that makes sense to you. Or B, you probably can still get pretty good sound out of it, even in a room with tall ceilings and bumps and your not bassy voice. To no fault of Shure's, content creators have kind of put the Shure SM7B on this aspirational pedestal. We've done this with microphones in the past and it's led us astray. We've done this with the Blue Yeti back before broadcast dynamic microphones were really on streamers' radar. Everybody wanted a Blue Yeti, everybody recommended a Blue Yeti. About 5 years ago, we started to figure out that, hey, the Blue Yeti, in most cases, actually isn't a really phenomenal tool for the job. There are better solutions out there. The disappointment also comes when you've spent $400 or $550 on a Shure SM7B or a Shure SM7B and Cloud Lifter, and it doesn't transcend the bounds of physics to solve all of your audio problems. For some of you, the Shure SM7b actually might do that. It actually just might be perfect. You've got that deep voice, you've got a solid recording environment, and you aren't really concerned about the boom because you have a solution for that in one way or another. However, I think for more of you, there's a better solution out there for a broadcast dynamic microphone, and I want to encourage you to research that. I'm not doing that research for you here. I can give you my recommendations. I've tried virtually every broadcast dynamic microphone up to probably about $800. But really what was most important for me in this video is getting us away from blanket recommendations of microphones, especially when an interface isn't involved. That should really be a red flag. If you ask somebody, what microphone should I get? And they answer with a specific microphone and they don't give you any like, and this for an EQ, or this for a compressor, or a GoXLR to make sure that you can get the most out of it, that should immediately be a red flag. With that being said, in the coming videos, we are going to talk a little bit more about my favorite microphones, including the Electro Voice RE20, and I hope that you will tune into that. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. I hope you were entertained and you found it helpful. If you did like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and follow me down on my social medias. Again, all the way down below. I'm John Horseman, and we'll see you next time.